David, although I was trained in the neurosciences, I follow cosmology very closely. I have many of the leading cosmologists I count as colleagues, if not friends. And I have to tell you that the great majority of leading cosmologists, and I see them every 2 years at a conference, FQXI, do not believe in God. They believe that the remarkable observations and theories in cosmology can pretty much explain the entirety of the universe. You disagree with that, and I'd like to understand why.
Well, they may be able to explain the entirety of the universe in terms of the succession and articulation of physical states that compose it. They can't explain its existence. And this seems to be a constant point of misunderstanding. You see it again and again. Say Lawrence Krauss's book a few years ago, Universe from Nothing, in which he felt he had made a useful intervention in the old philosophical questions about the contingency of the universe by arguing about how this universe may have arisen from a prior state that was a little more than quantum foam, say. Or if I'm getting the details right, I read the book, but and of course, this is utterly irrelevant to the question. They're not even asking the same question. And we go around in these circles continually. Cosmology is an etiological question. It's a question about physical states. So long as there are physical states, one can succeed another, one can arise from another. The question of creation is ontological. It is the modal plausibility of the existence of any physical state at all. So the movement from a very simple physical state to a more complex one explains perhaps the current state of the universe. It has nothing to do with the question of creation, which is explicitly a question entirely of ontological contingency. And that's not a modern retreat from older theories. That you can verify from the earliest sources in all these traditions, from the Cappadocian Fathers in Christian thought, from Aquinas, who explicitly says the issue of creation is unrelated to whether the universe is an eternal succession of physical states or not. Even if the universe existed without beginning, still this question would need to be answered because it's of a radically different kind. So the very notion that cosmology could even contribute to this issue is problematic. It's it makes a wonderful contribution to thinking about the nature of the universe within the embrace of, if you happen to be a theist, a theistic picture. But it's not a logical rival to, and it's certainly not a logical answer to the question of existence.
Some theists have taken great excitement in modern cosmology because since Einstein and Friedman and the expanding universe and Big Bang shows that there was a beginning to the universe. Other theists, and perhaps you're in this category, really are ambivalent to whether the universe had a beginning or the universe didn't have a beginning, because the deeper question is the ontological existence of the whole thing, whether it has a beginning or no beginning. Is that correct?
I'm fascinated by modern cosmology, don't get me wrong. I love reading it, but I don't confuse it with the sort of questions that touch upon the issue of God or the issue of creation. What if Roger Penrose is right and we're bouncing through one universe after another as each one exhausts its energetic potential? It becomes a liminal state in which a new universe arises. Fine. That happens to be a common view of many Indian forms of theism, most of them. That in no way for them, in Vedantic tradition again, would have anything to do with the question of the divine ground, the divine origin, the possibility of the existence of physical orders, of their arising and their passing away. So no, I mean, I find the story of the Big Bang fascinating and imponderable. What actually happened in that first moment, to which we can neither mathematically nor theoretically quite yet, but I don't see it as being particularly relevant to the question
Well,
of creation.
we theoretically can get to 10 to the minus 36th second.
But even if we got to the event itself, that wouldn't in any way exhaust the question of the existence of the event horizon.
So your concept of the articulation between God as creator and cosmological theories has absolutely, there's no logical way that anything there can interrupt your understanding of God, because you have no dog in the fight of whether the universe had a beginning or not.
Just like Thomas Aquinas, I have no dog in that fight, or just like Ramanuja or Ibn Sina. It's simply irrelevant to the question. It's fascinating, but it's fascinating in an entirely different sphere of inquiry.
Because some theists would look at Big Bang as a stronger affirmation that the kind of God that they believe in is real. That kind of creator who creates from nothing had to have a beginning to the contingent reality we call the universe.
If they could establish, I don't know how you would do this, by some physical or theoretical means, that before the Big Bang there literally was no physical state, then perhaps I'd have to say they've got a point. I don't see
that sounds like a logical impossibility.
Yes, but see, in recognizing that it's a logical impossibility, you already recognize the issue of contingency.
Right.
Because, all right, if there were no prior physical state, but even if there were a prior physical state, when you reduce that to the grounds of the possibility of any contingent reality, you'll arrive at the same conclusion. Either way, it's an infinite regress if it isn't grounded in that which is not contingent. But no, I think...
so you're ambivalent?
Yeah, I'm ambivalent in regard to the question of how, as regards the question of creation. I'm not ambivalent in my fascination with the question.
Sure, of course.